It's another brief moment in time when we get to see the change of the tides. The shifted, twisted bit technology showcasing the little bits of safety, while the quick trips are surely randomly sparking the photons around me. Let the light flow from the heat, yo. When the photons ignite, highlighting, yo, then you know it's that time when we force a change in tides. A little bit lined with something in us. It's almost like we something else, autonomous, or maybe perhaps it's that missing piece you needin'. Perhaps it's that simple message you searching. Perhaps it's just a different time framing us for the next adventure in the mainframe. Getting excited, so are the photons. Don't laminate so we can change the coupon. Let me raise the hash rate, submit the coupon fake, and reduce the rate while we mine our major bags. Crypto technology like cryptographic money will hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter cause it's time for 3D changes perspectives. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
That's right, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's me, 3D. I'm here to hopefully change your perspective today. Now, I hear often that everyone is spending like net worths on AI tokens for various reasons, with the biggest being API use. Well, if that is the problem, then what else can we do? Well, I don't know. Maybe do our own inputs. Fuck that. Let's just subsidize and get more per prompt. That's really where we're going to go. So today we're going to go look at what is most likely driving those crazy token bills, what is probably true, what may still be possible, and what is absolutely wild claims that may be floating around. Now, we will then at the end, we'll flip the perspective, and instead of just burning tokens, we'll try to attempt to show you how to subsidize the actual AI, reduce your costs, and still get the work done. Because I think that's really what you're trying to do at the end of the day with these things, right? Trying to get the work done, trying to get stuff taken care of. Okay. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and thank the network partnerships and sponsorships. So first I want to thank D-Organized for teaming up with Bitcoin Live Digital Broadcasting DB, because Bitcoin Live, DB, and D-Organized is the powerhouse combo. I see new heights for both organizations. Now, if you haven't checked out any of D-Organized's various videos and content for stacks and other topics, then you're missing out, because they seem to be taking off more and more with every day. You can basically find them anywhere you find this video right here. If you're watching this somewhere other than Odyssey, you can probably find them. So like X, Twitter, YouTube, all those places, Rumble. Find them on your favorite social site. See what they're doing. Have some fun. Alright, I also need to thank Beyond the Block for teaming up with Bitcoin Live Digital Broadcasting DB. Together, Digital Broadcasting DB family grows, and the stronger we all become. So now, if you haven't checked out any of Beyond the Block's content for finding out what is actually beyond the block, beyond the blockchain, then, well, you can find them also on X, Twitter, and other social media platforms. Pretty much anywhere you're watching this right here, again, except for Odyssey. I think I'm one of the few people that still stream out to Odyssey. So if you're on Odyssey, thank you. Alright. Now we have a sponsor. I know, we actually have one of those things. So, I want to thank today's sponsor. I want to thank Shieldfolio for sponsoring today's episode from Within a Quantum Bit, as well as the Bitcoin Live DB network. Now, if you actually checked out the Shieldfolio, well, they're like a little black book. They're made from stone paper, so they're fade resistant, tear resistant, and even water resistant. So the info and secrets you store in your Shieldfolio will last and survive whatever you throw at it. I personally have a Shieldfolio. I use it for my website info, contact keys, crypto keys, among other things. Just basically little black books with anything you want, not on the internet, right there in your pocket. And it really is, they are pocket size and ready to be by your side, regardless of your venture in real life or online. And if you look right behind me, right above my head, there's a giant QR. Well, that QR right there, it's going to get you where you need to go. It's going to take you to the main website. It's going to show you the Shieldfolio website where you can purchase all your things. And from there, you can use the code BitcoinLive20 at checkout to get 20% today. Now, you see there's a little QR code. I think it's over here. It's on one of my sides. There's a little one with the word Bitcoin Live 20 with some lady freaking out. That's there for the entire episode. You can scan that throughout today's episode and still find your Shieldfolio and use the code and get, again, 20% off today's episode. 20% off your purchase. Alright, so we're going to go on and on. I'm getting tongue-tied. I'm getting twisted. I need to just roll on the rollins, keep rolling in before we just stay on one topic. Alright. Thank you again, Joe Fuller, for sponsoring today's episode. And again, Bitcoin Live TV. Now, we're going to turn on the feed. Boop, boop. So, if you're watching and there's a chat in front of you, and you can click the chat and say things, it should pop up in here. Unless you're on Odyssey. I don't get the chat from there. Alright. So, welcome to the Photon Lab of the Greater Fourth Dimension Quantum Machine. And so the way this works is kind of, I think it's a fairly simple setup. We've been complicating it. We have been. Okay, there's that one. So we can just go, whoop, like that. Okay, see. So now we got this big old screen behind me. That shows you what's going on, right? So now you can keep up. You can say, oh, I see. There it is. Alright. But then we have this little lab tool. And, let me make sure that's working right. Yeah, okay. So this lab tool right here, this is going to allow you to find, also it just kind of tells you what's going on, gives you a heads up on some info. It's kind of neat, right? So, right now, we are talking about deorganize. So, we also do this, okay? So, we have this, like this double team action, where you have two QRs for you to use. We're still basically testing this bottom QR, so feel free to try it out. Let me know in comments if it worked or didn't work for your system. Okay, so this is the organized media. Alright, so we put up these little QRs so you can find out where we're going as we go, so you can follow along, or if it's afterwards on the replay, oh, you can find it. Okay, so this is the organized media. This is people we're talking about. Tons of videos, tons of content on stacks and Bitcoin, among other things. Alright, go check them out. So, now we're going to go beyond the block. So this is beyond the block. I just want to basically point out these are the partnerships we were talking about earlier. Like, look, there's me. I'm up on the screen. So, you know, you can discover more than what is just on the blockchain. What's beyond the blockchain? It's kind of neat. There's actually a lot here for you to go through. So, always check it out afterwards, right? Okay. So every so often we come to a point where we have to go like this, and I have to get stuff set up in the background, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just what's got to be done. So I got to catch you up at the same time. First, we want to basically explore and reference different perspectives in general. That's the ideal here, okay? For example, like people keep saying companies are literally burning net worths on AI tokens. So they're burning enough money in tokens for AI that people live off of, like for an entire year. So it's an insane amount of money on some of these tokens. And some of these, they're doing it in like a single month, right? So, but there are other things, like some claim it is like untrained prompters asking too many questions. Some claim they're like giant databases that are being stuffed into every call. Other people are saying it's like just the API companies in between that are jacking up the prices because of the opportunity or whatever. Then there's the like full conspiracy thing where like CEOs are deliberately running up the bills. So basically, like they get bonuses from their AI investments, and then when they correct the problem with the main company, then they get a bonus from the main company because the AI spending has been reduced. And it's like a double win-win, right? So then there's also other people saying stuff like, all sorts of little things, right? But you can see that this is like kind of like a multi-folded type of scenario of possibility. So we're going to kind of spend some time going through this, because we've gone before through like real token data spins and some of the contracts and pricings. And so this time we're going to be a little bit more specific in the pricings and things like that. We kind of want to put it into like one clean perspective. what is most likely true, what is possibly, what is most unlikely, and what is certainly not true. So after the perspectives or whatever, again, we're going to round everything down into subsidize, like how to actually subsidize with AI, and turn like reducing your token usage and going from like AI A to AI B, and doing what I like to call like multi-pool methodologies to allow for you to basically get more prompts or more out of each prompt. And it's normally over time, not immediately or per single individual prompt. So that's the ideal thing where I think we're going to go into it. All right. All right. Oh, see, my brain isn't thinking. I keep the new thing is up, and I'm not used to it yet. I forgot to move it around for the other two. See, that's why that's why we have the QRs, because I'm still not used to this one. All right, my apologies for messing that up. Totally frinkled that. So we got those. We get that. We get that. She'll feel okay. See how it says like partnership. I want you to say partnership. Say that. I don't know why I did. Okay. See. All right. Now we're going back to here because we're gonna get started. We're gonna pull it in. Whoop. There's our first spot right here. Gosh, I forgot all about that. Hold on a second. Okay. Forgot all about that. Okay. Now I was gonna do something so you guys didn't see the background again. Forgot. I apologize. So we're gonna be doing it like this. Yeah. Okay. This will still work. You guys should still get that. Okay. There it is. All right. We got the QR. We got the stuff. All right. So basically, like, we're going to start with some actual numbers. We're not going to be guessing. We're going to be, like, looking at this ramp data from mid-2026. So this is very recent data. It shows basically the median company is only spending, like, $11 per employee. Out there it is. $11.38 per employee net worth on AI tokens, according to, like, again, this ramp's June 2026 AI index. This track's spinning across 70,000 plus U.S. businesses. It's the top, has information on the top 1%, all these different things, right? So, as you can see here, basically, like, we can say the top 10% in here basically jump around. It says what 6 or 1100 or something like that, and then we can say the top 1% again. You see right here, it's like $7,000 per employee or whatever. So it's like huge differences in ranges. They're dramatically different. Okay. So this isn't something that's super easy to just say, oh, well, it's exactly this one thing or it's exactly that one thing. And in some cases, like $7,000, I've lived off of less than that in a year, personally myself. So and they're spending that per employee per month. That's crazy, right? All right. So we have, it says right, is it this one? Yeah. Okay. So we have this little thing right here. And if I do this, right, that update, I should have updated. All right. So we can see here, pull employee per month. We see there's a median, top 10, and a top 1%. And we see if we look, we got the June data, we got April data, we have general data from Anthropic, Uber, Microsoft, and then we have a various and specifically Benzinga's data right down here. So we can see some of these get absolutely insane amount of money, like right here, 12,000. That's about what I make per year. So that's, for some of these companies, it really is a large amount of money. So we kind of have to admit, at least, some companies really are spending insane amounts of money, but at the same time, we're looking like that's nowhere, like that's not, it's not the average across the board, right? Like that's just the top and high end of the average, right? And we see the developer AI coding is probably one of the most expensive ones. Or I say that I'm looking at it backwards. It's one of the least expensive ones, other than like standard like chats. So that's going to be the big thing: your AI coding versus your standard chats. Okay, it's going to be the two things here. So there's you can find this information, which isn't from this original source. The original source, I believe, is right here. Okay, so we need to move on. We need to move on. Oh yeah, and we need to do the update. Yep. Go boom and boom, boom and boom. All right, that should update. So basically, what we're seeing is token prices themselves have dropped quite hard. Sometimes in here, like this one at top, for instance, is like 98%. But literally like 70, 80, like those percentages are like probably the more common, more average, but it's still high percentages, way over 50, way over 60, right? And so like basically, even though we're seeing these really high percent drops, and we're seeing like this is compared to earlier days or previous versions of the same AIs, right? The total enterprise billing still rose. It's not like, well, the price of the AIs went down, so we didn't spend as much. No, they spent even more. The reason of this shows, or it covers, it's basically saying it's a lot of it's more volume than anything. Okay, so basically, like you're saying, there's more volume coming out of their end or per company than there was previously as well. So these agentic tools, like all your different things that have AI built in, all of those basically like increase and ramp up the plan, because you've got to basically plan, retrieve, and call all these little things. Like you got to have checks and all within these little tools, and they all basically rely on like API orchestration and stuff like that. And so like simple chat, if it's something like that, it's probably costing pennies. But when it comes to like an orchestrated agent run, that can actually cost like 30 times more on the same underlying model. You have the exact same model, and just having it being done within an orchestrated agent system, like through an app or a program that does it all in through the API, that makes it way more expensive than just these people logging onto their own browser, going to the chat, and just talking. So we're seeing basically a direct correlation in cost when it's like API handled versus like, and I know it's still API handled, but just going to the browser and loading up a chat through them. That makes a huge difference just right there. So we have to look at, we can't just say, oh, did you have your AI at home? No, we have to say, okay, how much of your AI is local? How much of your AI is local API versus non-local API? And that's where we start then now, okay, when we have three major differences. All local, but you can still have costs and other things involved with that, right? And then you have local, but it all ran through API. So, like, you're not running the AI at home, but the AI is doing work at home. And then you have non-local. So basically, like, you turn on the web browser, you go to whatever, blah blah blah, Grok, Chat GPT, whatever, and then you just talk. You just do the thing there. Those are the three differences. So, all right, Sarah. So we have to look at the architecture of the agents, because they become a multiplier all on their own. And that's basically what this website we get from all of this data. Okay, so we got the next one. Okay, and I gotta put better notes in here to tell me when to change that too. Alright. So now we're gonna look at like how do AI agents spend your money. So now this is coming down to like when you have AI agents able to actually spend money, like how does that, what does that return to? So basically the Stanford related study on agentic coding shows that there's the same pattern here too. One agentic task can burn 1,000 times more tokens than a simple code reasoning or chat turn. And so this comes back down to running the AI at home, but not running the AI locally, is way more costly than just running it not that way, you know. And with this one, it's like your input tokens are being spent a lot of times from resending history, doing contextual dominant, like having large inquiries, large databases. So basically, like the same task, it can burn through like 30 times more tokens on the data that we see on this website or this study. Yeah, there it is. It's they're saying like we're seeing an average of 30 times more tokens, and again, this is from me sometimes being a single run, right? And so basically this says like the more tokens do not always guarantee better accuracy. The accuracy often peaks in the middle of all your token use. And so like to some degree when you're running your AIs not at home, so you're running everything at home, but your AI is not at home. It basically it could save you time and money reducing your calls, reducing how much you give it, being like, no, don't do a full database sweep. We're only working with this one thing, so we're only work. You gotta like scope limit heavy scope limit. It's very important. But we do see that like going from this API based at home model, it just explodes the bills. We see the bills explode immediately, and we do see this different pricing point when you're running AI literally at your house, but it's all running through the API system versus like just going through the web browser and using that API system. Like there are actually two different API structures. So we do see two different price structures, two different price demands. And that's why we switched to, well, this is an unknown. Like I was supposed to have another in here. It used to be in here. It might be on a different, I just might have messed up. But it used to say, like this one says probably true, right? But we had one that said potentially incorrect or something like that. Okay. So we're going to change yet again. Go to the next thing. When it's select all. Alright. So this one says Uber actually capped their employees' AI spending after blowing through an entire year's budget in about 4 months. That's insane, right? So, it says here is AI, like, even here they're asking, is AI getting expensive? So now, basically, when we look at company examples in the headlines, like this is an example of a company in the headlines where they're spending tons of money, like $1,500 per employee, and these were engineers. So Uber rolled out basically Claude Code and Cursor Hard. So this adoption went from like 32% of engineers to 84% agentic users in a week, like just a few weeks. So they blew through their entire budget of 2026 by April of 2026. So literally, like just a few months ago, this happened. And so per employee or per engineer, per engineer costs somewhere between $500 and $2,000 a month. They later basically put soft caps around $1,500, which was the one we see here, the soft cap here. This is what they put in after the fact. And so Microsoft did a similar like internal experiment on themselves with Claude Code, and they ended up like revoking it completely, and most of their direct licenses completely, pushing back to their own Copilot. So then there was like somewhere in here, there's one where they talked about an unnamed enterprise where they left like the limits completely off and ended up with a $500 million like fee from Anthropic or whatever. And that's a lot of money. $500 million for AI is just too much. Too much. And when we see those prices where they were like $500 million, well, like that's when it goes to that, I don't know, man. That don't seem about right, right? You know what I mean? Like, something totally seemed wrong about that. So, we can say even like with this one, like it's the very most likely still true statement to some degree of like, um, just showing like there's more than one factor at play causing these bills. All right. Okay. So we're on this one now, and we're saying this one says element cost comparisons. This is just a lot of data, which is really really nice, right? So you can see here it's telling me I'm not allowed to access some of this stuff. So we have a copy of it. Um, so what is the subsidized move? One clear path is like basically like I said earlier, like going local or on-prem or on own open way interfaces for the routine work. Like a multiple TCO studies show that once volume is steady in your root, basically the easy tasks to the smaller models, you then want to kind of like blend out the cost. Um, with just a straight frontier APIs, and that's again running it at home without the AI at home. So like the SunX publicly said that their agents cost like $100,000 a day on Anthropic, and then they switched to open models on their own GPUs, and then they claimed roughly 90% savings out of doing that. So the hybrid routing for the local bulk, it makes a huge difference. And the like when you're doing the frontier only, like 5 or 15% of your workload, it starts becoming more of like a practical working ground. So it all yeah, it all comes down to how you handle it. So like I said, we do have, yeah, it says right here, two tables. So we do have two data informations that we look at, and when you say look, even right here, we can see it says $8 per 1 million tokens for the low use case. Then when you're doing on-prem, it goes down about 50 cents per 1 million, and it's like whoa, that's huge, right? So then when we have like base cases, we're saying like $20 per 1 million, and then on-prem, that's going to like $4 per 1 million. Like holy crap, it's still lower cost than the low case version. So then on high case uses, $75 per 1 million, and it can actually, when you're doing like this method, this hybrid method, it comes to about $40 per 1 million, and this is with very selective frontier calls. Um, so like this is even basically this thing we're saying. This is even less calls being used going to the AI API, and more is being done at home, and it's still $40 per 1 million. Then we see basically like there's energy cost breakdown. So okay, those things. Well, you can't actually see, and those things don't matter right now, so it don't matter. All right. So I'm not putting these into the card because like, come on, here, you happy? All right. So here's the next one. Basically these are, we're looking at, 4 different models or whatever, but we see that we're just looking at cost structure and some information up here, and it basically just kind of saying it's roughly the same thing. Um, but like this one, the at high volume cost, they're saying it's between $8 and $75, right? And 50 cents to $6. So slight difference in cost points, and it's quantized like 7 billion to 70 billion tasks. So billions of tasks. So that's quite a bit of stuff going on, right? It's not like they're doing just a little bit of work. No, they're doing a lot of bit of work. Okay. So these right here. So basically another synthesized level or lever is to just simply not stuffing the entire database into the entire conversation history, into every call. It's like a context accumulation. It's quadratic, and really what that means, it's like exponentially don't grows, right? So every extra turn actually resends everything that came before it. So that'd be terrible. It's better retriever and better catching and tighter prompts during model rebooting, that so you don't have to burn like open class models down on simple classification tasks. Basically, this can cut the meter without cutting capacity. What you're able to do, capability, but at the same time, hold on, we have a thing to explain this. So here is the context. When you see this right above my head, it says basically this is imagine every single call you're giving it a full database of data. It's very quadratic, so it stacks up. It just basically becomes a stack of databases. But when you subsidize, it takes longer to get to a database's worth of calls. So imagine the same amount of information, same amount of technical data being pushed or being ran by the AI, but how much we limit the scope per call for history and database data of what it can access and mess with at a time, and we have way less databases being technically sent, so we use far less number of tokens. So huge difference. I think that's the easiest way to explain it. It's just this little picture, okay? Okay, let's go ahead and change that one. So now we're seeing on the here, they're saying contracts and seats still matter. So pure unlimited flat rate plans did mostly die out. And because of heavy production, yes, really. So what replaced them is this hybrid seat or committed dollar amount that gives you a baseline. And then you have meter tokens above that. So often with a volume discounts once you commit, basically, right? And then that allows for more steady work. The commented route can be cheaper this way for more predictable models, and then pure pay-as-you-go still can be within its limits. This allows for very bursty or experimental work very easily, and again, there's still pure token routes, and once you get over your limit or whatever, we're willing to pay those prices, they're still there. You still allow that to happen. And this site basically goes through a lot of the data for it. You can see we have some stuff here. Well, we have copies of the data. We're just going to show you that pretty easily. So here is cost with, it says Claude, Sonnet, so Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku. And we see under this old model at 30,000 employee knowledge workforce using this, it costs basically like $14 million to $17 million a year in seat fees with no verbiage overflow allowed. So under the new structure, the seat component drops to approximately 7.2 million. But every prompt, documented summary, blah, 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 they're billed slightly separately at different API rates. So this now becomes a little bit cheaper, more affordable. And then we can see down here it says confirming that consumption pricing unlocks far more spend per customer than seats ever did. More than 1,000 enterprise customers now spend over 1 million annually on their tokens, and that's with Claude. Okay. So this says the broader OpenAI portfolio spans nearly over 3 orders of magnitude in price. So we see here GPT has we got what Nano. So we got 5.5, 5.4, 4.1, and 4.1 Nano. We have the those 5 ones, right? 4, 5, 4. I can't see it. It looks like 5 when I look down at it, and then when I count it, it's 4. All right. So we can see the cost points here price vary quite differently. And there's a strategic risk for enterprise CIOs, basically. Which ones they pick can be very different, and that is huge. So, one more. Now, this is annual token volume by workload. So we're seeing knowledge worker productivity, about 750 million tokens, 880 billion annually, percent total about 9. So like here, I'm not going to go through and I'm not going to just read all of these little stat data points. The thing that matters is when you look at everything all together, the different ways that these are being used, regular worker knowledge for productivity, AI agentic coding, customer service chats, document and analytics, and then automated workflows. We're looking at like 8 billion tokens a day being processed to and from these businesses for approximately 2 trillion annual tokens for only 240 work days. Not even a full year's worth of work. $240 work days. You get that, right? So under the AI system, a work year is only about 240 days right now. All right. I know that's not very good. I know you can feel it in your bones. I feel it in my bones too. Okay. Well, moving inward to a local model is really powerful. But not everyone can do it tomorrow. Some still need like online or API access. So the next subsidized move is really stacking several lower cost tools instead of one high cost flagship. People, or basically real people, are already doing this and reporting useful work with the same or less cost. And when we say more useful work, we mean like more positive productivity results in a timeline. So it's like within the month, more work was done. How about something like that? Now I don't remember what the timeline of whatever was actually used, but it did vary, so it wasn't always the same. All right. Hit that button, hit that button, that button, and that button. All right, so there it is. So look at the current price board. So nobody is guessing. ChatGPT Plus is like, okay, do they kinda. So we see the stuff is like fit it says 5 to 18 and 20, 100, 150. Okay. So ChatGPT Plus is 20 a month. Pro jumps up to 100 or 200. Claude Pro also about 20. Max is about the 200, 100 200. Grok has a $10 option, $30 option. Copilot $19 a seat. Gemini is like $20 a seat. Then they have these big enterprise options. So the high end here is still like all-in-one flagships, is what we're still. It's like this team over here is all-in-one flagships, right? When we come down, we see they have the cost listed below, but we have this little thing right here to help you out. So you can see they're all competing now, right? They got similar prices and all this other stuff. Okay, but if we look, we say here on this piece, what's the best role for each one of these? All right, according to the research and stuff, Grok seems to be yet best used for like research, planning, things like that. Even like restructuring words. Then ChatGPT, certain models like Sol was used for a specific version thing. For code, ChatGPT seems to be a really good one there. And then Claude seems to be a balanced reasoning model, which allows you to do various different things, including like using one model to check another model. GitHub Copilot seems to be really good with like repo and public code information. Like when we say code information, we mean like public data with the code and other information. And then Gemini, it was your general everything plus workspace, so it's AI Pro, right? And so we can see they all have like these really good differences of usability, and that's fine. That just shows you that they all have like key things they can work on differently when we use these lower models or lower cost models. All right. So I gotta take 1 second. I gotta take a drink of my coffee. All right, sorry. I had to get some coffee. Okay. So we're seeing like this is Supergrok's website. This is their planning and pricing and all that. Um, but basically through here we're seeing like real patterns emerging like in the wild. Basically, a common move that we're seeing people do is like drop Supergrok for their $10 light version, and going from using Supergrok for like everything to using it for planning, researching, and little things, and pre-code, things you do before you ever code. And then people are using ChatGPT Plus, their $20 level or whatever. This allows them to basically have a coding model and a reasoning model without spending any extra money. They're still spending $30. So people are going from just using SuperGrok to using Grok and ChatGPT to get more out of it. Now they have more token allowances. And if they use them more appropriately, they get more out of each one. So then you have like basically these two specialized brains working on one not one task, but one general plan, one general aspect. So another pattern that we're seeing people do is move from like heavy Anthropic team or enterprise builds, and then they're going down to like a Copilot and a Grok Lite and a ChatGPT, or even like going to like a free model on the Grok and just doing like cross checks with Anthropic, Grok, and things like that. Having Anthropic do not my Anthropic, Copilot and Grok doing cross checks and repo work, data paperwork basically, and then having GPT do like the heavy actual work. They spend basically the same amount of money. In this case, there's a little bit smaller difference. They spend a little bit less this way. But people are talking about dramatic higher effective work values coming out of the end result. And a lot of that came from people just switching from Grok. Like, that was one of the things that got me to do what we're doing now. Is like, I talked about, like, I had tested the idea of switching around, trying different AIs and stuff, and apparently other people are doing it too. We're seeing that starting to show through numbers and stuff. So we're talking like, when we're talking in this manner, blah blah blah. Just never, I've been seeing this whole episode like the bottom of my browser page just kept being missing. Fix that. So stat costs versus reality. We see when you're going through the high flagship costs, you're talking $100 to $200 per month, right? And even if you just grok Lite, ChatGPT, Copilot, it's still that $50 a month. It's still way cheaper. It's still about half the cheapest you could go from a flagship. And so this, and again, in some cases, this is per month per user, right? So we can see that there's a much lower cash hit value, but most likely a higher finished work value. There's a lot more token allowance here. You know, we're not even running tokens all through the same. We're running it through 3 different ones. So we definitely have a way to use these tokens differently on the fly. So we're going to go over here. This is just, again, showing you this again to let you, to remind you. Okay, just remind you. Alright. So, these guys won't let me go into reader mode, so I do apologize. I really do apologize on that. Okay, so basically we're seeing here, this is just more information on costs and stuff like cycle on billing. And so basically practical subsidize for anyone who has to stay online or have an API set up, right? You just split the workflow by stage and give each stage the cheapest tool that's still competent at what it's doing. So like research, high level planning, we go with Grok, Lite, or the free tier Grok if you can in some cases. And sometimes I think we were seeing something on one of these, like, I don't remember. Like you can, like Gemini, or there's other free model things you can also use. And so then you can go like architecturally and cross checks. You can like do second cheap models, or additional models, right? Then your actual code generation, use like GPT Soul. You can use Claude Sonnet. You can use the Copilot. It's in front of me. Yep. Oh my bad. So you use Claude Sonnet, not the flagships every single time, like Opus and things like that. And then when you need like repo integration, PR comments, public data, you can use Copilot, routine classification, summarizations, things like that. Use Haiku, which is Copilot, I think also has that too. Or Gemini Flash, other open weight models. So you can keep basically the expensive models for expensive tasks, simple models for simple tasks, and you'll get more tokens per dollar, or more out of your tokens per dollar. Alright. So this is kind of showing you that ideal a little bit, just a little bit better, I think. You know, just shows it to you again. Okay. All right. We're giving you all the pricings. Now I know we've done this before with pricings and stuff, but it's like every time we go back to pricings, basically, depending on what we're actually dealing with, the pricing really does change. And so it's like every couple of years, the prices seem to get different. And I wanted that to be a major point that you're getting out of this, is that the prices keep changing. They keep changing. They keep changing. Alright. So we now kind of need to apply like real shapes of company, right? Whether you've got a conglomerate or large enterprise, a medium or small team, or maybe you're a solo company, a micro-sized shop, maybe a 3D printer person, single individual doing your stuff, making stuff and selling it. Like, there's a way to subsidize for each of you. Each of you have a different recipe based on your volume, risk, the number of people involved. The goal stays the same, right? Lower the cash leaving your account, raise the amount of tokens, and or get more work done. That's really what it's all about. Keep your time input reasonably lower. And that's also important here. Sorry, I was getting some coffee in my mouth. It was delicious. Okay. So, okay. So that's kind of ideal here. Now we're looking at the three major business types. And so we're seeing, okay, like back here, right? So basically we're saying, like, if you're like a conglomerate or a big enterprise, HR, you can need all these different extra executive layers or whatever. You cannot just move everything locally tomorrow, right? You gotta build like a lightweight data ocean in the middle, basically. If I move my big old head, we can see that I'm lost. My brains said blah 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 blah. Okay, so you have one internal knowledge base or vector that is used for like the team. They can query through here. Sometimes it might just be like your servers that are handling the communication networks between your employees and the models. Okay, because not everybody's gonna want you to straight up just use the chat routine. Some people want to be the limit before the AI. So this we add in like a simple router or router routine. We have like basically something in the middle for you guys to use, right? And now this allows us to send easy jobs to cheap models. This allows us to kind of pick which models get what task and whom can access what level of model or cost even. So engineers can be set to different, they're allowed this one or that one, and so then they can pick and choose those they need. Then like researchers and like your development team, they're going to have like a different set that they're going to be allowed to use. And then HR, your CEOs, your executives, they're all going to have different ones they're going to want to use. And so like even those, like your HR will be different from like your executives. And so like you're going to have you're going to want that smart router to handle all that. So that way, like your individual people, they may not even need to know which ones they're actually using. It just says HR. Oh, yeah, I'm HR. And then if you have like engineer, maybe there's a second tab or something, right? So like, if there's just access, the ideal is just access. Now, if you go into this website, you actually go view this later, you'll see there's the cheap models. You want to try to get like a lot more of your volume through 70 to 85%. Your mid-tier, like Sona, Sol, Grok, things like that, you want like 20%, and premium, you want somewhere between 5 and 15% use. Opus, Max, and these heavy uses. So we're going to really subsidize through where the volume goes through. Okay. So now if we go to this site, yeah, I know. Okay. We update that. So that's, we can say medium small companies, say like 10 to 8 people, right? Well, I said that wrong. 10 to 80 people. Here basically is a stack with even cleaner setups. So one shared Copilot business or equivalent for the builders, one or two Grok lights for seats for research and planning. This is something that the whole team can borrow, right? One GPT Plus or Claude for code or heavy reasoning specialists. Everyone else gets routed through free root tiers or just cheapest paid models with daily hard limits. So this type of data ocean here is a shared drive type of data ocean, right? It's gonna, if you got local embedding it's super good to be using, but your cost target is often it's still gonna be 2 max seats or something like that. Like won't be as much as the enterprise, but you need a little bit, right? So we have this like 3-layer model for you to look at, right? We say, your premium frontiers, like, like, again, we're saying the same amount of percentage, but we're really, in this case, we're saying, you might do like one of those things where you're like, I'm not sure, you might wait to do that like once a month or something, and then put a lot of your cost into getting something done, like having a lot to do up front for it to work on, for it to handle, but the database can grow slowly. And then you have like your cheap specialized online stack, and then just running like a local open weight. And again, like a 70B, 7B, 70B class would be perfect here for self-hosted. And we just like, yeah, there we go. Again, I'll get that fixed. So basically my window's just supposed to be smaller and a little bit higher. But yeah, so we go with the smaller model setup, and basically the bottom 2 parts of this 3-layer is the most important part. That premium frontier, you want to try not to have to go for that. You want to try to keep everything down to these bottom 2 stacks. Because that just basically keeps your price down super low. Alright. So then we found this other place, right? Where we're like, oh, okay. So, if you're like a solo or smaller company, like I said earlier, like maybe you're a 1-person tool builder or 3D printer person, like an independent, right? Like you you were the whole company. And so earlier, like we were doing an episode about $20, so we talked about how like we've already proved that like $20 can deliver tens of thousands of replacement value when you are like really disciplined in your model usage and things like that. So now you kind of got to keep things a little bit tighter when you're a solo individual. You got to keep like a $10 light. You got to have your ChatGPT 20 or Claude 20 or whatever, right? So that way you can get more stuff done. But you got to really rely on like a local open weight model, or free tiers to get a lot of repetitive work done, a lot of documentation cleanup, generalizations and other things like that. Maybe even like your emails, right? So this data ocean here is, it's really not a data ocean, right? But it's more like just a local repo or a local folder. Sometimes just like keeping a track of your past prompts and decisions you fed into it for you to be able to access, that you don't have to like constantly need to rely on an account to be able to have access to those again. Why was that on? So these tiny little things like that, right? Your total cash out the door is trying to keep about $30, and then your effective token work still very quite high. You're not really wasting on any single one model. You're kind of really keeping it to purpose and keeping that track. Now, like I said, we've done an episode about this type of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Check that out. Okay. I know these are all just like websites we don't have a whole lot to show you, because it's just like cost comparisons and showing you where you can get the pricings for things. And I apologize, but like, I know in this kind of case, this is kind of where you really want, right? You want to know where the prices are at, what's the cheapest price, how to get to it, blah, blah, blah. So basically, for any one of these threes, the next step is just doing like the multi-AI online stack. spread it across, right? Moving that high volume routine local, be self-hosted, open weight models. Moving inward to subsidize. It's a multi low cost stack bridge to help people go, like, from stuff that would really be expensive to like an affordable method with some online brains. So together, this thing gives you like 3 layers. You have one for local for your bulk, your cheap specialized online, and then a thin premium layer for those really hard calls. Like this gets you really more totally lot more out of your cost. You really do get way more tokens per penny in this type of scenario. Okay. And again, that's the 3-point subsidized model for this one. So, let me basically put these folds into a better order. The most probable, wait, hold on. Wait a second. Thank you. Most probable agentic loops that basically resend huge context, missing huge limits, and leadership that encourage maxing out before they measured. Basically, like that's probable. We can see that happened. Okay, we can see it. The possible secondaries are like skill gap differences among the domain prompters, kind of cause extra prompting and extra questioning and extra things. Workload concentration with multiple headcount changing, so you're constantly changing like how much you need in a time. Well, I got 200 today, like next month we'll have 100, and so you'll have these different fluctuating value points, and then there was always like the unlikelies or stuff like API providers were raising those prices. We do know that the thin wrappers and stuff were they definitely causing scale capacity value issues. Things that we couldn't really prove were CEOs deliberately running up bills to try to get bonuses and stuff. But that's something that can still come true or be found later in the future. But it was the one that we heard, but we didn't find anything to be able to prove or disprove either. So that last one just kind of keeps circulating. Like basically everything circulates down to these 2 simple things that you can do. Right? You can move some stuff inward and go some local, do some of that work yourself. And the other thing you do is do lower cost models across different AIs or different AI providers in order to get more tokens in total. So this perspective shift is actually quite simple, right? Stop treating every token as an inevitable. You don't have to, you're not going to have to get them all. Subsidize your layers, subsidizing layers. Run the routine work on models and hardware you control. That's always going to be the cheapest. So stack several lower cost online tools that can do the job and make sure you are having the ones do the job they're best at or better at. Keep those frontier models and hard calls down as low as possible. Put those hard limits and put in those visibility points so you can see what's going on. You're not blind to it. And then train your people who are prompting to stop creating extra loops. Find people like you saying, hey, look, we need you to worry about doing an AI on some engineering for software. You need a software engineer. Or we need you guys to be coming up with stuff for our security, cryptography side, and blah, blah, blah. Well, you need someone with that type of technical knowledge doing the prompting. You don't just need, when you say, oh, we need an AI prompter to do these prompts. Well, guess what? The AI prompters need to be specialized in what it is they're prompting as well. They can't just be an AI prompter. You still need those people with the knowledge and the code. You still need those, the people knowledge in the different things. You still need those specialized individuals that can do that job to handle the prompt work as well. So if you're one of those companies that fired a bunch of people and then hired people called AI prompters, and you're wondering why your AI bill went up crazy, well, I can guarantee you should probably hire those people you were having to do the work again do the AI prompts. Like they're going to be wanting a lot more money this time, right? Building a data ocean may sound like a lot, but in reality, to some degree, sometimes it's just a folder of all your prompts that you've ever given the AI and everything it's given you that you can just search through. Like, it's not that hard. It's just, it sounds way more difficult than it really is. And so, again, don't stick to any one perspective. Try others out. See what's going on. Because, like, if I just came up here and said, hey, look, it's pretty simple, bro. Use a data ocean, separate, subsidize, and equalize, and you got it, bro. You probably would have just thought I was crazy. And then, like, dude knows nothing. But guess what? Kind of gave you some information, gave you a lot of different places to find the different value points that we're talking about. And we kept it simple.
Yo, did you think you know? Did you think you hold? Did you think something new? That's the goal, to see from a new degree and get the change your mind needs to find something new. Life suddenly is easy for many, but when a wall appears, sometimes up is all you see. So let 3D guide to the side, yo, where there's a door though. Just be careful on your way out, for the first step is a do-si-do. A little bit Linus with something different, it's almost like he's something else. And regardless of maybe, perhaps it was that missing piece you was needing. Maybe it was that simple message you was searching. Definitely it's just in different time for defraying a mental mind state, separating us from our own mental mind tank. Boom goes the blast of thought. Boom goes the last spark with part. Boom goes the mental mind tank. Don't your perspective hit on the way out. Don't let your directive stop you when you doubt. Don't let the dire detection stop you from being getting excited, so the photons are delighted. Don't hesitate so we can line up the hash rate. Let me surmise the time, submit the rate, and reduce the face while we mine our major banks. Crypto technology like cryptographic money, while hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter, cause this was 3D changes perspectives. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a new role of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective. Of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective.